Okay, in this video we're going to look at Saga Noren and how she's portrayed in our set text episode of The Bridge. We're going to look at how we can apply Judith Butler's theory on gender and gender performity to the character of Saga Noren. So from the outset you could say that Saga subverts the gender script. She is not a typical female character, someone you'd expect to see on TV. And by that I mean she is somewhat of a neutral character. We are not looking at Saga as a sexual object. She is not objectified by the camera. She's not part of that male gaze. So how do we know that? So the basics might be her dress. She's someone who doesn't wear makeup, who tends to have scruffy hair. Even though she's quite an attractive person, it's not something that is focused upon in the show. For example, she wears these big sort of tight-knit woolly jumpers that have actually become something of a fashion, sort of iconic piece of fashion, and sales in that style of jumper actually spiked because of this show, which is interesting in itself because we have this sort of functional, sort of big knit jumper that becomes suddenly popular amongst women. It might say something about how the role of women and what they're meant to look like has changed, and how that script has maybe changed over the years. It's also worth looking at maybe her personality. So her personality is defined by her autism. So even though it's never mentioned, it's clear that she suffers from some sort of autistic disorder, so probably something like Asperger's. So Asperger's tends to make people quite logical. They tend to come across as quite cold and uncaring, and they're also driven by order. They are not emotive people at all, and when they do become emotive, they lose control. So we see that in our set text episode where someone inquires about her dad. Her dad might be dying, I believe, and she kind of loses it. And then in order to regain focus, she starts like reordering books. So it's interesting to compare her to maybe another TV detective like Sherlock. So Sherlock also suffers from a form of autism, has the same sort of personality, cold, distant, very logical. But whereas Saga's personality kind of pushes people away, Sherlock's personality is almost like a magnet to people. People want to get to know him. They want to get to know this male detective because this deep-thinking, logical, mysterious detective. They want to get to know him. But in Saga's case, you could say because she is a woman who has these personality traits that are what some might define as being male. They're part of the male script. She's almost othered by society. She's rejected by society because basically she acts like a man, and people don't like that and push her away. So a really nice example to show that might be her relationship with her partners, or even her ex-partner, who she sends to prison. She's quite cold, she's quite logical, and it's that personality that forces her to basically send her partner to prison, and people don't like that. You see that in our set text episode. People think that's somehow weird, or how could a woman do that? Why is she not caring? She's often rejected by society. Okay, couple more things. We've got our two victims. So you might want to look at the fact that our two victims are a gay rights activist and also a priest who was the first in Sweden to marry a gay couple. So it's a show that maybe suggests a message about the place of the people who don't fit those scripts. So if you don't fit those Judith Butler scripts, you are somewhat disposable. You are not sort of welcome in society. You are disposed of. In essence, you are killed. A quick one on men. So the flip side would be the role of men in the show. It's more traditional, I would say. So the men tend to be in charge. They tend to be quite moody and deep. Cigarette in their mouth. They're like a typical sort of TV detective. So that's probably kept the same because it helps highlight Saga, and actually that she's quite a different female character. Kind of stresses that difference. So to sum up, we've got like gender roles are probably subverted in the bridge, especially the role of women. That could also be the reason for the show's popularity because it links in with the what we call the Me Too movement. So this rise in feminist activity across the globe, and it's obviously reflected in the show. Also, the rise of female detectives overall in TV shows have come off the back of this. So the role, the script for women is changing in society, and that's being reflected in the show The Bridge.